Oh, there it is. It's kicking in.
Working on this. Oh, well, I just exited out of something I did not mean to.
Just don't exit out of the room. Just stay here.
Well, I did not mean to. Well, turn your volume off.
Yeah, I've got to turn my volume off. I know.
Oh, no.
Hey, Ashley. Hey, Ross. Good to see you.
No,
I just saw you. I'll see you again.
Gentry, you're on speakerphone on the podcast.
Hey, Gentry.
Hey, sorry to bug you. Just wanted to let you know that you might not be coming through the mics, but we can still hear you. So,
Check
I
1,
don't
2.
know.
Wonder how you can hear us, but we're not coming through the mics.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Sounds like it might be coming from another audio source, but could be wrong. You guys sound clear.
Did you just hear him thumping on that mic?
Sound clear. Nope. That's all right.
Hey,
Continue, I
Ramona.
can hear you.
Good to see you.
All right, bye.
Digging the stash, Grant. So I'm just going to talk to Larry Adams. Hey, man, good to see you. Suzanne Bowles, Jane Hill. So glad you guys are joining us. Ashley, tell your hubby I said hello. Congrats on that new baby. I'm so excited. That baby's coming along just healthy, and that's awesome. Hey, Stephanie, good to see you. So it looks like I'm here by myself. Grant's actually over here beside me working on some tech stuff because I don't know how to do anything tech, so I just sit here and talk. That's just how I roll.
Take questions.
Ramona, we can hear you all. Oh, you can hear us because I can't hear you. Okay. So somebody send me some questions. Send me some questions. What can I answer for you? Anything that I can answer for you except sports and politics. Don't ask me anything about sports and politics because I don't know anything or what I do know about them. You don't want to know what I know about them. So, sports and politics. Sarah, hey, how are you? Joshua Leonard, welcome. Yes, good to see you.
Okay.
So somebody send me some questions.
My wife is texting me. Gentry is texting me. We've got a
Everybody's
whole...
sending me favorite visiting evangelist.
All right.
Joshua Leonard was my favorite visiting evangelist. How's that? Sounds better now. Thanks, Larry. So
Awesome. We apologize, guys. That was my fault, I guess.
I think my favorite visiting evangelist over the years, Grant, who would have been, if you think back over your life,
Yeah.
who would have been your favorite visiting evangelist that we might have had?
That's tough because I think,
I've got two in mind.
well, my perspective is so different now than it was at the time. So I want, like, you know, the question would have to be phrased two ways. Looking back, who was my favorite visiting evangelist? I'm not sure, but in real time, my favorite visiting evangelist was Morton Bustard.
I was going to say Morton Bustard.
Yeah.
Morton
because he
Bustard.
was just so more like bigger than life.
Yeah,
I mean,
literally.
he was literally big.
His waist was like 32 and his chest and arms and shoulders was like a 48 or something.
Yeah.
He was massive.
Yeah.
But he walked in the mystery of miracles.
Yeah.
And that was always kind of mysterious.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys. I mean, lots of people talked about it, but very few times did people actually. He was one of those guys that are like you right there. Mm-hmm. There's something in your life that you know, and then he would just say it and he would just call it out. And Josh Pleasance is texting me. Josh, you can put it in the comments.
He's texting me too.
Please don't text me while the live stream.
He is saying, "Who's my favorite son?"
He is telling me, "What's that hairy thing on your lip?"
What's that?
It's a mustache.
It's a caterpillar.
It's a mustache. If you must
He got a caterpillar stuck on his lip.
So here's what's going on.
Okay, what's going on?
With the mustache, I was
tell the story.
Just trying to trim it down, and I just took it to the skin, and that was an accident on this side. And so then I was like, well, I've got to you know, just shave it all off now. So then I did it and, you know, realized my face is much fatter than it was when I got the beard. So the whole morning I spent telling Brooke, I'm like, I feel sick. I look so stupid. I can't go out in public, you know. And then it kind of grew on me. I sort of like it now. And I thought leaving the mustache would make me look, it's kind of a hip thing to do right now.
Yeah.
But it definitely more so communicates that I would defend the use of a Confederate flag at any moment.
Don't even say that. Don't even say that publicly.
It's a flag of my culture.
All of y'all listening, don't share that.
Share it. Share it. Is that not what my mustache looks like, though?
No.
It does. It does. It looks very. It does not look hip. It looks very like. I think it's the
like a redneck
mustache hat combo. Yeah.
Well, when you add "In God We Rust" on your hat, and
Great. Josh Pleasant says creeper. We're going to have to cut this whole beginning out for the podcast because no one is interested in this. Okay.
Well, we're going to have to cut Josh Pleasant off the podcast.
Yeah, so we're going to have we'll block our first person.
Josh, we're always glad to have you. Hey, remember, we got to get together, Josh,
yourself.
because I need to come down there, remember? So let's try to talk this week. I'm scheduling appointments.
Good, that's good. That's good.
In the middle of our
Josh,
podcast.
go ahead and just put in the comments your free schedule over the coming week,
and your phone number.
We'll just settle this now. How about that? How about everyone else that's on this podcast?
Okay. Let's get started. So,
okay,
where are we going to start?
Where do you want to start? You want to start with housekeeping? You want to start with?
Why don't we go back to Wednesday night?
Yes.
And start with your teaching on Wednesday night, just recapping the trans, sex, life, and that's not the order.
Yeah, sex,
it's
gender,
sex, gender, life,
yep.
and then trans.
Yes.
And you just did a really solid teaching on transgenderism and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it was. I could feel in the room and maybe even outside the room. Actually, what was funny about it is, in real time, it felt like this is not going well. Just in the room, it's a very quiet room. But then afterwards, I probably got more comments after that.
Yep.
Then I got a call the next morning. Somebody called me at 7 a.m.
Really?
Yeah, and just to tell me that they felt like this was something that the larger church needs to hear and all that.
Wow.
Not to toot my own horn, but
but it was received better than you felt like it was being received.
Yeah,
and I'm
sure.
telling you, that is the
shocked
challenge
me.
of speaking publicly.
Yeah.
Is many times the speaker struggles with what he's saying, but the people are getting it.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of times when they're quiet, it's information. Not always, but it's in a Pentecostal setting.
Yeah.
When they're quiet, it's usually they're absorbing the information and trying to process.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it's when you introduce new information, it's hard to respond in real time. And I think the week before I had spoken on gender roles, which I think
which was a great study,
and I think it was applicable to more people, obviously, in the room. So the difficulty that I talked about, and I won't rehash the whole thing. You can go back and look at it. And I'm also going to be uploading all of these teachings to a personal YouTube channel that I've started.
But now they're being dropped every week.
They are being dropped every week
on
Life Chapel. Yeah.
And they're on the Facebook page. Somebody just told me the other day that they actually scrolled down and found it on Facebook and watched it there.
Yeah, so you can find it on Facebook, you can find it on YouTube. We've got a playlist with the title of the Sex, Gender, Life. But I started off saying how the thing that I struggled with in preparing for that night was the fact that I know that in our context, in Life Chapel is realistically a 200-person church in the middle of a cornfield in a relatively 300-person church. There you go. Yeah. 300-person church in the middle of a cornfield.
I just don't want the other 100 people to feel left out.
Yes. Also, all those pastors out there, just so you know, hey, we're getting big. Josh, we're coming for you, man. We're going to plan another campus. We're going to 6 services a weekend. We're going to have 14 people in every service.
Yes.
Yeah. No. But yeah, we are. So the hard part is, even probably the most quote liberal person in our congregation is relatively conservative, on the whole of social issues. And so talking about something as deeply impacting and difficult to talk about as transgenderism, especially because of the pain that it causes, people in their personal lives and not to mention the public fight that's going on around it. I wanted to be very careful to try and imagine how I would talk about it if I were looking at a transgender person directly in the eye.
Yeah.
And so I tried to be very careful about that. But the one way that we do that is we have to separate people from politics.
Right.
Because
and that is so important because this has become a very political issue. One of the things that was interesting that you brought out is the percentage of transgender people.
Yes.
It's like 0.005%.
It's I can't remember. Well, they had it split up between males and females, and so there's not.
That's right. Yeah, you did split that up.
So there's not really good statistics. So for males, it could, if I remember correctly, it could be anywhere between 0.013 and 0.02, or no, sorry, 0.013 and 0.2.
Yeah.
Males.
But you said total in the entire world. I think you said there was 700,000.
No. In the nation, in
America.
In America, yeah. Because it's hard to.
No, that can't be 700,000.
I may have said that number wrong.
There's only 300 million.
Yeah.
If there's 700,000, that'd be like 30%.
No, I can't do math live on the spot, so just don't make me do this.
Okay.
Anyway, you can go back and look at the numbers. I had them on. This is why I had them on a poster board behind me. This is why I put them on a screen so I didn't have to do this right here.
Yes.
And now you're making me do this. Anyway.
And my nose started running. I got the sniffles now.
It affects statistically it affects very few people.
Yes.
In reality, that's a lot of people. That's the thing to take into account.
Yes, and that was your point.
Yes, the point was, even though out of so many people there aren't that many people who are affected by this, overall in the world there are quite a few people. There are very many real people that God cares about, and so we should be talking to this issue. So
what's your topic this coming Wednesday?
Just to sort of put a bow on the transgender topic. So we talked about the idea of gender dysphoria versus transgenderism versus cross-dressing, the way that people express themselves, and how the church should address people. And ultimately, it should be compassionate, it should be caring, it should be kind.
Yes.
But ultimately, at Life Chapel, we would encourage anyone struggling with gender dysphoria, one, obviously to seek professional attention, but then also we believe that people should, in the end, seek resolution to their birth sex.
Yes.
So that they should stick with their biological sex and find a way to resolve that.
And the best way to do that is to develop a relationship with Christ.
Exactly.
And not just, well, we said so, or you're going to go to hell.
Right.
That is, if you develop a relationship with Christ, He will reveal in you.
Right. That our ultimate belief is that it doesn't happen the same way for everyone, for every person, and there's no system that the church can create. But what we can do is create a culture that leads people to Jesus rather than leads people to resolve their difficulties in one way or another. The point is follow Jesus.
Yeah.
That's and so good. So this week we are starting the last 3 weeks, sort of the
yes, you got
finale.
3 weeks left.
Yep, the finale, and this week we're going to be starting on homosexuality and same-sex attraction. But because I have to do an intro to everything that I do.
Yes, this is true.
The first section of this last section, that one is we're going to be talking about the idol of love and marriage. And how we've created sort of our own monster when it comes to the idol of love and marriage, how we excuse our idolatry around love, marriage, and sex when it pertains to certain people who have certain attractions and live a certain way, and then remove all of those excuses, for other people. And so I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be applicable to a lot of people. I think it'll be definitely challenging for all of us. But I think it will, ultimately the whole point. I thought about calling the series "The Same Lie," and pointing out, but I
instead of the whole series, instead of sex, gender, and
the same lie. Yeah, instead of sex, gender, sex, gender, life, and because the whole thing sort of revolves around all three of these issues: abortion, transgenderism, and homosexuality. It all stems from, or at least I connect it to, lies that have been believed in the church that have led to these misunderstandings, right? So with abortion, the idea that the misunderstanding about what makes us in God's image, right? That it's our creativity, or it's our ability to think, or some attribute of us, and not the simple fact that we have human DNA and that He created us that way, right? And because we think, well, it's some attribute, well, then anybody who doesn't have those attributes, anybody who's not creative, anybody who can't think for themselves or live independently, well, all of a sudden their humanity is up for grabs, right? And so because of a lie that we've believed, now that has been translated into the world, right? Same with transgenderism, the idea that you can be a different person internally, and not can be, but that you should trust your internal person rather than your external person. That if you have wants, desires, hopes, dreams, whatever may come to your mind that disagrees with or that is outside of maybe your biology or how God made you, that the one inside is the real one, and you should go after it full. And because we've believed that in the church, then it gets translated in the world. Well, the same thing I think can be said for sexuality. So I don't know. Those are some. Yeah. I know.
So this week.
Yeah.
Wednesday night.
I know you're just waiting for me to wrap it up. So
no. I mean, I just don't want to get too deep in the weeds,
right?
Because we don't have.
I only live in the weeds.
And this is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
So
I'm going to get my weed eater out. I'm going to get my weed eater out right now and just start stretching out that zip line. And
I'm the swamp thing of the church. I only live in the weeds.
So this Wednesday night, that was my question I'm trying to get to.
Yeah,
But you said you're going to have to do an introduction to get to where you want to go.
Yes. So this Wednesday night
is the introduction to the next 3 weeks.
Yes, and then
it's all still in the same ballpark.
We're going to talk about the idol of love, sex, and marriage. Then we're going to talk about specifically same-sex attraction in the church.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we're going to present, hopefully fairly, interpretations for and against affirming and non-affirming churches and all of that, and talk
because
about,
that's a big deal right now. Is what churches.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was the first session that you did on this. You got an online post or somebody said something. Well, what I'm wondering is your church affirming, and what does your bylaws say, and do you hire? And it's like, what in the world? Yeah. So I mean, it was like getting hit with a water hose or something.
The term affirming in itself is a manipulative term for sure.
It is.
But we would say traditional or progressive, I think, is the fairest way to say it.
That is a good distinction.
Because I think it's a neutral way to say it. This is traditional, and this is somebody, somebody that believes we can progress, beyond that. And so traditional and progressive, and I am going to do my best to lay out fair, traditional and progressive arguments and talk about why we come down on the traditional side.
Good.
Because I think if you don't introduce what people are actually saying, so if you do what's called a straw man, you say, well, these people don't care about the Bible, or they don't really care about people, or they don't
huge generalities.
Right. Then somebody hears a legitimate, progressive argument that sounds like, wait a second, they kind of take the Bible seriously, and they're thinking through this topic, and they've spent years on this, and then all of a sudden everything you said is undercut because you didn't really do the work to show what they would actually say. And so we're going to hopefully give a very fair communication about that. And then the last one will be on, it'll sort of be wrapping it all up on holy sexuality.
So the first one you were very broad and kind of threw out a large net. Yeah. And the last one you'll kind of gather it all back up.
The very last one will be about what we believe would ultimately solve these issues for Christians.
Excellent. So you're giving a lot of answers.
I'm trying, yes.
Yeah. I mean, but given a real plan, we're just not throwing out a bunch of information. We're giving you a plan that if you follow after God's plan in this way, that you walk with. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. So, I think it's been good.
So we started a new series yesterday.
We did.
Now, for those of you that are joining us, this is a perfect time to either subscribe. This is a perfect time to share. This is a perfect time to throw us some kind of a comment. Let us know where you're at.
So Ashley Cleverell says, any discussions on parenting for this topic, for example, on how to handle sleepovers for your kids growing up and things like that. We don't have anything in this series, but I think that would be
Man, that would be a whole not seminar, but a whole series on parenting.
Yeah.
And that could be everything from training up your children in the ways of the Lord to sleepovers.
Well, maybe that should be the next 10 weeks. I know you and Mom have been talking a lot about Roots and Wings and the next generation, and
that could be it.
I know Mom in particular has been thinking about maybe we could merge some of these some
ideas together.
Yeah, bring these things together and talk directly about, because I think most of the time when we talk about parenting from the pulpit, correct me if you think something different, I think usually it's general and it's quick.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
it's a nugget here, a nugget there, and and it's pretty broad usually.
Yeah, because you're not talking to a room full of parents.
10 weeks on parenting.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have to do 10 weeks on parenting. You could do 5 and 5. You could do 5 weeks on parenting and 5 weeks on something else.
Yeah, that's true.
You could do marriage, do marriage and parenting. Have sort of a family life.
Yeah, family life. That may be a good way to put that, because then you could talk about dealing with blended families. You could talk about, everything from how to heal a marriage after a failure.
Covering biblical divorce.
Yeah.
Because that's something that people just, don't seem to have the information on.
Yeah,
that could be really good.
We need to talk to your mom about that. Maybe tomorrow on staff we'll kind of throw that idea on the table. That may be a good fall series.
See, this is what happens when you guys get involved in the comments. Thank you for that. I think that's gonna build up the church in a big way.
That may be the thing that could really bless a lot of people, just because Ashley had the question.
Yeah, because the other thing I want to do at some point is do 10 weeks on eternity.
Oh.
Is talk about heaven, hell, purgatory. What does it look like? What do we think about these things, and explain fully. This is the stuff that I'm interested in. And I think a lot of people, universalism, what does it mean? Again, not straw manning. Why do people believe this? Why do Bible believing people come to this? Annihilation of the wicked.
Yeah, what does that mean?
This mean?
That's right? And all those are topics that a lot of people don't think about, but they might have misconceptions that they don't even realize.
Yes. And I think a lot of people don't think about them because they're terrified of them.
Well, that's true.
Because the idea of hell and heaven is just absolutely, utterly terrifying.
Yeah, because they don't know.
Yeah.
Because they don't know.
The mystery surrounding it and all of that, but even talking about end times, drawing a little bit of that Revelation stuff that we, that I've covered in the past series,
Reintroduce, kind of bring that back around again.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
That would be good. So let's talk about what the next 10 weeks is, and then we can plan maybe a year out.
Is that going to be in the summer, or is that going to be in the fall?
The next 10 weeks, well, we were going to do it the same way we used to do small groups.
Yeah.
So I think we skipped the whole summer.
Yeah, because right now with COVID and everything, it's just not. So I think what we'll do is we'll skip our small groups for the summer, and then just hit it hard in the fall and do small groups again, community groups, and a big Wednesday night push.
Well, I'm starting to just wonder if we should just continue to move back to Wednesday night direction.
Yeah,
we're gaining momentum there. I think people are enjoying it with the live streaming capability.
On campus and online, we're having great numbers at our Wednesday night.
Great numbers, great discussion.
Studies, yeah.
Great discussions coming up.
Yeah.
And the other thing could be is we could do watch parties where people invite people over, because it only goes till 8.
Especially if we hit a real topic like families.
Yeah.
We hit that. Or in eternity, either one. Both of those would be topics that people would say, man, won't y'all come over? Or you wouldn't have to. No, watch parties don't work like that.
No, I'm saying, I was talking about that. Physical watch parties.
Physical watch parties.
Yeah, like instead of small groups per se, people can be on campus, but then also people who maybe live a little further out, like, hey, why don't you guys come over?
Yeah.
We'll watch it together and then have some discussion just like we do on campus. I think that
would be
could
great.
be cool. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, we're talking about some different stuff. So this is what we do on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Just welcome. So this is a great time to subscribe, share. I asked you to throw us a post, and man, that just really went well. That was great. Thank you for hitting us up on those ideas. That's great. Thank you. So yesterday was the launch of a new series.
Yes.
That
Wish I could pull
felt like I know it. I felt like that my message wasn't bad. In fact, it felt like it was pretty good.
Fantastic. I think people loved
it. But it did not introduce the idea that I feel like you had for this series, because this is your idea series.
I don't think it introduced it, but I think it was on it. I think it was right on with the topic.
But I felt like that would have been
But you don't really work that way.
Well, not when it's your series, because I can't get into your into
That's
your
true.
brain.
My brain doesn't work good.
Now, if that would have been the end of sermon of that series, that would have made a lot of sense.
We should have traded.
But the introduction, I didn't feel like I introduced your series well enough.
Yeah.
So the sermon was not bad, but my introduction to your series was bad. So talk us through this series and what you see in that, what you imagine, and then we'll go back and talk about my sermon.
Right. Yeah. So outside on the inside it's the idea that you can be right in the middle of a group of people and still be all alone in your experience.
Yes.
You can, and it's because of this disconnection that we have with the world around us. And I think the year that we've just been through has exacerbated that to an unbelievable degree. People are separated in ways that you can't believe. And I think we're going to have to do some work to recover community, not just the church, not just coming to church.
Very intentional.
I think people were excited to get back to church, but so I've talked to, I guess I'll just talk around it. I don't know how to do anything else, but after COVID, I've talked to a lot of people there, and there are a lot of articles that have come out saying that basically people have decided they enjoy working from home all day, every day, being in their pajamas all day, every day. People enjoy the fact that they recognize that they don't have to go to a physical church to be a part of church. People enjoy these things. And there is something enjoyable about that for sure.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, pre this terrible year, we were already in a loneliness epidemic.
Yeah.
It was already happening, right? So
the survey that I threw out yesterday was from January 2020.
Yeah.
Which was 2 months before. And people are talking about, I can stay home and still be a part of the church.
Yeah.
I'm lonely and I'm isolated. These are the three pieces of the survey I brought back up. But I make good friends when I show up at church.
Yeah.
And it's like, those are like so all opposites.
Right.
It's like, so.
Yeah. So
this series is going straight to the heart of that isolation.
Right.
Even when people come together, like you said.
Yeah. The idea that we're coming back together, it's just all too easy to remain disconnected and comfortable, because especially with everything that's happened with politics and everything this year, people are divided in ways that, or the division of people has been revealed in ways that I think
that's a good way to put it.
That I think has made it clearer than ever before, that people, even going to the same places, working for the same company, going to the same church, are still remaining somehow completely disconnected from the world around them.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, I mean, I've got an article pulled up right here from August 2018, How the Church Can Respond to the Loneliness Epidemic, right?
So this was 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, but I think even with this, I think, again, this last year has exacerbated this like an unbelievable degree. So one of the things that this article cites is that those between the age of 18 and 22 identified with loneliness at a significantly higher rate than those 72 or older.
Wow.
People between the ages of, I want to say this is 18 to 22, but there was another stat.
College.
Between 18 to 30, 18 to 30 was the stat, have reported before 2020, they had an average of one confidant or close friend.
Wow.
Post 2020, there's an average of 0.5 confidants, which means
a whole bunch of people
don't have
anyone.
one friend, don't have one good friend
that they can really just pour themselves out to or really lean on.
Right.
Man.
Now, even beyond that, what we believe is that you need more than one.
Yeah.
That you need a group of diverse, close people from different backgrounds, ages. Ages is extremely important, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think with all the talk about diversity in our world, I think the diversity of age is probably the most ignored 100%, because the diversity of age is going to give you a diversity in perspective.
You better believe it.
And diversity in perspective is more important.
So this goes back to Solomon. King Solomon in Scripture dies. His son takes over and goes to his peers for wisdom, and they say, you better put these people in greater bondage, and you better raise the taxes, or
Right.
they're going to get wild and loose on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he goes to his dad's advisors, and they say, you better lighten the taxes and you better take the load off of them, or they're gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
He listens to his peers. I was just doing a Bible study with a young couple, and they were so thrilled to be able to sit at the table with Sharon and I because of our age. You know, we're almost 60. They're in their they're 30, maybe not even 30, late 20s. And most Bible studies that they would become a part of are peer Bible studies.
Right.
So it's just a bunch of 20-somethings, 30-somethings
Yeah.
getting together and all sharing their thoughts,
Right.
without ever having that senior voice that says, "I've got 40 years of experience in this. Let me talk to you about this."
Right. Well, not only that, but there's been a complete, almost not ambivalence, but not hatred. Hatred's too strong a word, but toxicity.
Okay.
Towards older people, towards
Yeah.
multi-generational relationships, right? Towards the ideas of an older generation. And while I don't think you just, take whatever your parents or your grandparents say
Right.
and swallow it hook, line, and sinker, I think you also cannot reject everything they say out of hand simply because it came out of their mouth, right? So anyway, that's a lot of what we're focusing on. But the idea is how can we create a game plan for becoming less lonely
Yes.
as Life Chapel? How can we stop people from being outside even on the inside?
Yeah, and that's why I kept leaning on that together, all,
Yeah.
everyone,
Yeah.
one accord, one place.
Yeah.
But I didn't get myself clear from my intro. I should have introduced
Yeah.
that whole topic a little clearer.
Yeah, but I thought overall, I don't think people focus on that quite as much as
I
you
don't
and
think,
I
yeah,
do.
I mean, we're trying to get a long-term point out.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was good response. I
No,
mean,
the service was great. The preaching was great. But yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. And I will actually be teaching the next 2 weeks on this. So
Yes.
I mean, you guys better still show up. If you do not show up, I will be upset with you all.
you're going to want to show up. Trust me.
Yeah, but
Or next Monday on the podcast, he is going to be ticked.
Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna come after everybody. But that's what it's all about. It's all about, this idea that somehow you can be lonely in a crowded room. And this concept
Church should be the last place that should happen.
right. And it seems that, people, I think there's a lot of reasons, which we'll be talking about in especially this week's sermon. But there's a lot of reasons that people refuse to make deep connections within the church. I think.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Are you going to be preaching that?
I'll be talking about some about it, but
Why do you think that is?
I think some of it,
Because there's people watching and listening right now, and people that will pick this up in the future,
yeah.
that I think they're probably watching what we do right now because they're not connected to a church.
Yeah.
And let's just dig around on that for about 3 or 4 minutes.
Well, I think some of it is hurt,
Yes.
but I think hurt is a lame word. And here's why, because our world, especially within the Christian world, has made hurt an excuse for dysfunction.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So you were hurt, and so what we do is we want to understand you, which is great. I do want to understand how you were hurt and what that has resulted in, but ultimately I don't want you to live in your hurt.
Yeah.
Right? You need to lay down bitterness. You need to lay down, because those are the results of hurt, right? The results of hurt wasn't your fault, for sure.
Right.
You're not to blame, but you are culpable for the decisions that you make
If you let it fester.
to do with hurt. Exactly.
You let it linger.
If you allow resentment and bitterness to live inside of you, you are living not according to God's plan for your life. And so, I don't want to be too harsh on that, but
Well, I mean, we're just laying out some thoughts here. We're not creating doctrines,
Right.
but there is something to that. So hurt is one.
hurt is one. I think pride is a big one.
Oh yeah.
I think the pride of so I think about parents when I think about this, if I'm honest, myself included. Parents between the ages of whatever, again, sort of that same demographic, 18 to 30, will almost every time go to the internet before they will go to their own parents or an elder parent that they know, a grandparent that they know.
Wow.
They will turn to the internet and say, what should I do with my kid when they're doing X, right? And this is moms and dads. This is all parents. But it's
They become internet mommies and internet daddies, where that's where they get all of their information.
While meanwhile, becoming resentful of anyone who would suggest a way that they could parent better. And is it I'm a young parent. Is it annoying when people are constantly throwing their suggestions at you?
Yeah.
Sure it is. But is it worth it to get the gold nuggets out of it? Right?
Yeah.
Is it worth it to shake loose the rocks to get the gold nuggets? I think probably so. So I think some of it is hurt. I think some of it is pride, and I think the third thing is and I don't know how to explain this other than a constant diet of complete autonomy, which means I am in control of
these are
everything.
3 good ones. So there's hurt,
all the time.
there's pride, and autonomy.
Right. And I think there's a better word for autonomy, but that's the word that rolls around in my head. In my reading, that's the word that comes up a lot. But autonomy is essentially your ability to make all your decisions on your own, free of anyone else's influence, right? Your ability to choose where you go, what you eat, what you do, how you dress, how you do your hair, anything and everything. Yeah. It cannot be influenced by any other person. And this comes from, I think, sort of the same thing a lot of the things we're talking about on Wednesday night comes from. This is sort of the mortal sin of our sort of secular world and generation. And another lie, I believe, that we have believed and even maybe propagated in the church to some degree is that no one else should influence the decisions that you make. Yeah. Is that if you are making your decisions based on what is going to make someone else comfortable or someone else okay, or with your parents' response in your mind, or with your whatever it may be, right? Then you are sinning against yourself, right? Yeah. And that's sort of the gospel of this generation, is that you cannot allow anyone else to influence your decision about anything. And if you did, you have sinned.
Well, and what's interesting is if you go back to those previous 2, through hurt, you're allowing people to influence you. Oh, through
that's
pride,
good.
You're allowing people to influence you by internet mommying and internet daddying. But you're not letting the right people influence you.
Right. Yeah, and
you've got to ask yourself, who are the right voices? And you don't need, the Bible says there's safety in the multitude of counsel.
Well, and that's the trick, and that's where it all ends. Yeah. Is you will be influenced, right? Yes. But the trick that allows us to believe we're not being influenced is degrees of separation. So
wait, talk about that.
So I'm not being influenced by you, who's my dad, because I don't care what you think. But I'm listening to someone I do not know from a city I've never been to, raising a family who I don't know how they are. I don't know how their kids are, right? And it's not just families, but that's just the first thing that comes to mind.
And that's what we've been talking about.
Yeah. And or whatever it is, right?
Prayer life. Yeah. Could be theology.
Is a person who's directly in front of you is not. You're not going to allow them to tell you anything about your life, but you'll go to the internet. And this is the thing about. This is the thing about even internet church, right?
Yes.
You have people who will, you as their pastor, or any pastor, let's take us out of it, their pastor at their home church that they claim is their church and go to every Sunday, should he sit them down and say, hey, listen, I've been noticing something about your kids, how you're talking to them, or I've been noticing something about your marriage, or hey, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some immaturity I see in your life, whatever it is. That is an absolute overstep of boundary. But then we will literally Google that same question. Yes. To the internet of preachers, any preacher out there, anyone who has a large stage, anyone who I do not know, please tell me. And so there's this desperation for knowledge and rejection from where it comes from, And so that's. So
are you going to be bringing those in?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I think actually in the. Some of that'll be drawn into this week's, but then the last one we're going to be talking about falling in love, and we're going to be talking about if the church is Christ's bride, how are you treating his woman?
Wow.
Right? So are you in love? Like if you're supposed to be like Jesus, if Jesus is your rabbi and you're supposed to become like him in every single way, and he has this bride that he has died for, that he has given everything for, that he has purchased back. He has given the bride price for, right? He loves her with all of his heart. Do you love her? Do you love the church, right? If you're supposed to be like Jesus.
Boy, that's going to be heavy.
Yeah. Well, I only have one,
Yeah. Suzanne Bowles says embarrassment is also an issue.
That's good.
That's a good one. They don't want to be embarrassed.
And that could be, maybe the reverse of pride,
True.
That it's and maybe it's not so much pride. I call it pride because I don't know. I was raised by people who told me I was going to hell, but
only once a day.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Not only like all the time.
Only every time I woke up and no one was in the house, I thought the rapture had happened, and of course I got left, right? So,
I remember coming home from school and be like, nobody's here. Oh no,
it happened.
And calling my friend, and if they answered, then I hung up saying. Because then you couldn't see who called.
Yeah, back in the day, we would always talk about this in youth group, a rapture buddy. Everybody in the youth group knows one person that's definitely going to make it, right? Right, so everybody in the youth group knows, like, okay, we all got to call this girl because she's for sure going in the rapture, right?
And if she answers the phone,
we're good.
Nowadays, your name pops up on their phone, and you're like, they know it's me.
Yeah, you would have to text, please text me back. But embarrassment, I think, would be the other end of that pride.
That could be.
Maybe not exactly pride, but it's just you're embarrassed that, and I think that's a lot of the ways that, again, coming back to the parenting issue or marital troubles or things like that, it's like you'll go to the internet because no one from the internet maybe can judge you. And that's a good perspective. Again, thank you, Suzanne, for bringing that up, because that is a good perspective, is you're afraid of judgment. Yes. And so because no one on the internet can judge you, you would rather, I was in Menards the other day and I couldn't find something. And I got so frustrated because I just didn't want to ask anyone. Yeah. And I wished so bad that there was an online map of the inside of Menards. Yeah. That you could just...
Well, of course there should
just
be.
like maps, know, where I wouldn't have to ask anyone. I could just zoom out. I could search, and they would highlight it right there on my online map, right?
Somebody with an app brain needs to develop that.
Because that would be amazing.
For every store
But
ever.
again, the problem is it's leading exactly to what we're talking to. Yep. There's probably, 30 people in green vests walking around, and I just don't want to talk to any of them,
Yeah, I get it.
But it's because Suzanne, that embarrassment, that pride, that mixture of all of those things that I don't want to, I would rather ask the internet where no one can see what I'm talking about. And this is going to trickle down.
Sure it is.
So this is going to be important for our children, because our children are going to ask the internet for things that they should be asking their parents about. Right? And if we live as parents just like that, how are we going to have the room to say, listen, baby, you got to come to me. I've been given responsibility for you. They're
going to pick up those habits whether we like it or not.
Yes. And it's going to be much easier for them to Google on something, and I think the most difficult topics. Topics about sexuality, topics about birth control, topics about, anything and everything you can think of that they should be getting from a wise older voice who is involved in their life and can see their situation and can talk to them through it, right?
Yeah, so true.
So one of the books that I talked about this last Wednesday called Irreparable Damage by a girl named Abigail Schreier. Yeah. It's about basically the epidemic of what's called rapid onset gender dysphoria. This thing that for years there was always a trickle of people, a very small percentage of people who were dealing with gender and who felt maybe they were trapped in the wrong body. That's from what we can tell, that's always been somewhere in the culture. All of a sudden in the last 10 to 15 years. So the thing that she cites is in her daughter's class, her grade, 60% of the girls identified as transgender.
60%.
60%. And so that's when it's something that
outrageous numbers.
Something that
which
historically,
means that
especially
there's
for
some
girls.
other influence.
Right.
This is not a mental thing that they're working through.
Right.
This is not some kind of confusion of their body.
Yeah,
this is literally influenced from somewhere else.
This is something beyond that. And what she talks about, she ends the book with this sort of this ongoing thing about, young girls who are sort of detesting their mothers for questioning in any way, shape, or form that they might actually be transgender, and stopping them from getting, sex reassignment surgeries and all these. She talks at this end. She gives this sort of thing. Well, we were only there every night when you. I'm gonna cry thinking about it. We were only there every night when you cried. We only held you while you threw up every time you did. We only came to every soccer game. We've only known you since you were in our womb. So how would we know anything?
Yeah.
And she goes on because we as a culture and a society are going to people who don't know us before we're going to those who can see into our lives to avoid.
This is all a part of this series that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Outside
on the inside.
On the inside.
Right. So this can apply to families as well.
Yeah.
More and more people are feeling disconnected from the other people that live in their own home. Right? Even though they come home to the same home every night.
Wow.
So
yeah,
it's affecting a lot of things. So I'm still working through how I'm going to distill all that down. I mean, me, the people know me. It's a big thing that I'm trying to work through. But I think it's going to be good, and I think it's going to help.
And so then, following that series, we have
Easter.
Tony Suarez.
Yeah.
You'll want to register for that. Go to Chapel Events.
Speaking of,
yes,
you never answered your second. You were going to say Morton Bustard.
Yes.
And you never answered Traveling Evangelist. Who was your other one?
Yeah.
You said you had two.
I did. The other one was not so much a traveling evangelist as much as he was a guest speaker.
Okay.
He's an older guy. He's probably 80 now. His name is Spencer McCool.
I remember the name. I don't remember.
Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And he can have you laugh in 1 minute and cry in the next.
Yeah.
And he literally would get people into the palm of his hand in the first few minutes of his message. And for 30 minutes, he would literally, just move you to where he had you right where he wanted you at the end of that sermon. I mean, he's just amazing. But we had him do some Christmas banquets because he was a comedian and told crazy stories of stuff that happened in his life. But we've also had him preach a few times as well. And so Greg Albritton was another one.
I do remember him. He was the guy who broke his neck. Water skiing, barefoot water skiing, whatever they call that. Yeah. Wow, yeah. That's
and
cool.
so
with that, Tony Suarez, who is for sure our new favorite.
Man, he's dynamite. I mean,
we bring
we're
him
just
back
anticipating miracle signs, wonders, and the outpouring of the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
And so if you know anybody that needs healing, a deliverance, the Holy Ghost, they want to speak with tongues, whatever, you need to get them here. Get online, text 97000, type in Chapel Events with an S, and register for those services.
Or anyone who loves church, CHUCH.
Yeah, now I'm telling you, he will throw down and have some.
If you're ready to take the R out of church.
Yeah, church.
Right? If you're ready to take the R out of church, okay, that's the service you want to get them to. Anybody who loves church without the R.
Exactly.
Yeah, is going to love that.
It's going to be dynamite. And then Easter, 4 services on Easter. And 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. That's going to be fantastic. That's limited seating as well. So that's why we're doing 4 services, because you'll need to register for those services as well.
Yep. So right now you can go to the Life Chapel website. You can text Chapel Events to 97000, and you can sign up for all of that, register yourself, and in faith, register a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about right now who you want to text and say, hey, I want you to go with me to church for this service or this service or this service. And then
because the theme for Easter is it ain't over.
It ain't over.
Because that's what people need to hear in their lives right now.
Okay, the postcards came in.
The postcards are in.
So when you guys are here on Sunday, this coming Sunday, you need to take a stack of them.
Yeah.
And hand them out to your family and friends. The information is on there about how to reserve seating and everything.
Yep. And then after that, we're going to do Baptism Sunday.
And Brooke is preaching that Sunday.
Well, hold on.
No?
I don't think she agreed to it.
Oh, I suggested it.
You did suggest it.
I'm preaching Easter.
She didn't say she's not going to.
I'm going to be preaching Easter.
Yeah.
we don't know who's preaching Baptism Sunday. How about that?
She didn't say she's not going to.
Yeah.
I mean, she
All
very
right.
well could. But yeah,
everybody
you did
likes her
ask.
preaching so much.
Everybody
it's like
loves
they're
her
like,
preaching.
when's she going to preach again? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, it looks
so
like it's
tomorrow
Baptism
we need
Sunday.
to decide that. Don't let
Well, it looks
let us
like
forget.
it may have been decided
I
just
may
now.
have already
we'll see.
decided that.
We'll see.
I may pull the pastor card on that.
Uh-oh, here it comes. Awesome.
So yeah, that's Baptism Sunday.
Yep.
Which is great. And so yeah, there's just, man, this is just a lot of great stuff happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Sunday after that, I think Paul Cook is going to be here with us.
Oh, yeah.
He's
love
going to be,
Paul.
yeah, Pastor Paul from Plano, Texas. He's one of our board of directors.
Man, we got a lot of good stuff
We got a
going on.
lot of good stuff happening. I mean, lined up back to back. And so I'm really excited about all that. So
Yeah. So I think that sort of wraps it up. I think that kind of.
I just want to
draws it
tell
to
the
a close.
story that I missed. I told
Yes.
it. I told it in the 9 o'clock and missed it in the 10:45.
Yeah. So give us a short rehash of the
Short
context.
rehash
The context
is let
of-
the church be the church.
Yeah.
And how that the church is becoming soft. It's becoming almost like meaningless. So many churches.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad.
Well, it's just to put people come. They're outside on the inside.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
come. They show up. They don't let the church do what the church is built to do.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I never thought of this, but at the end of the 9 o'clock, I'm coming to a close, and I just threw this story out there. And your mom, after Sunday, she's like, "What happened in the 10:45?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, "You didn't tell the story about the auto parts." I'm like, "What auto parts?" She's like, "The first service." I'm like, literally, the Lord just dropped that into my spirit, or something happened.
Yeah.
And I just tell
I'll
this
tell
story.
you what happened after you tell it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So a guy's battery goes dead on his car. I was kind of processing it.
Yeah.
A guy's battery goes dead on his car, and he's like, "I got to get a battery. My car's dead. It's a good car, just it's not starting." So he drives down the road. He sees a sign that says auto parts. He goes in and like, "Oh, this is awesome. This is where I can get a battery to start my car." And he finds that they have Hostess cupcakes. They have donuts. They've got bread. They've got fruit. They got vegetables. They've got everything but car batteries.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And he's like, "What happened to car batteries?" And the owner's like, "You know what? My dad started this thing. And, you know, just a lot of guys came in with grease under their fingernails. And, you know, their hair was kind of greasy and their clothes were dirty. And we just thought we needed to kind of raise the clientele a little bit. So we started bringing in fresh fruits and vegetables. And we started bringing in homemade breads. And, you know, just to raise the clientele a little bit." And the guy's just like, "But I just need a battery for my car."
Yeah.
And the question that I kind of threw on the end of that is, how many people walk into the church needing something to energize them, the power of the Holy Spirit, and they find a church that's soft. They find a church that's trying to be cool, trying to be hip, trying to, you know, do something because we need to raise the clientele of the church. Because
that's
we
good.
don't need greasy sinners. We don't need people with dirt under their fingernails and issues in their life. And so that was kind of the way I wrapped it up.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to throw that out for anybody that missed that.
Now that's great, and you added that part about, you know, raising the clientele, but I'll tell you where that came from in the back of your mind.
Okay, tell me where that came from.
Tony Evans.
Tony Evans.
Tony Evans tells a story at the end of a sermon that we watched together, where he says a guy gets in an accident, and his wife, he wakes up and his wife is unconscious and there's blood all over, and he gets her out of the car, and just down the road he sees a sign that says doctor's office.
That's right.
And he takes her and
I
he knocks on
completely
the
forgot about
he knocks
that.
on and the guy answers and
Old man.
Yeah, old man answers and he says, "Sir, you've got to save my wife. She's dying." And he says, "No, I don't do that anymore. I'm retired." And he says, "Well, then you either need to save her life or you need to take your sign down."
Bam. Tony Evans.
Yeah.
Dust off your hands. That was.
Yeah, and so
Oh.
then he's saying, you know, basically, you know, either the church needs to be the church or they need to take their sign down. But I do like, because I think that the part you added about the kind of clientele that the church being the church brought in, I think that's really good, because that really hits us at
So
home.
many churches today, they want clean people.
Clean people,
They don't want
done up.
addicted people. They don't want dirty people. They don't want people with marriages too messed up. You know,
Right.
because it just gets messy.
Or
But years ago, I read a book by a guy named Yaconelli. Yaconelli was his last name, and he wrote a book. It was not a big book, but a small book. I still have it, called Messy Spirituality. And he talks about the church should be messy because, and he brings out the premise of that book is where the oxen is in the stall, it's dirty. In other words, in other words, if you don't want a dirty stall, the oxen represents the sowing, the reaping, the work of the field. But if you don't want a dirty stall, you can't have an oxen. If you don't have an oxen, you can't have the reaping of the harvest.
That's good.
And so it was kind of around that is you just got to be you got to be willing to put up with the mess.
Yeah, and that's
people.
That's the other thing that, and I say this because I am one of these people that desires this, one of these pastors that has this temptation. But the other thing I think people want is they do want addicted people. They do want, but what they want is a clean testimony. I was addicted, and so then you can tell people I was addicted, and now I'm free, and now all of a sudden they're golden, right? We tend to not want to walk with people through the rest of their lives.
Between
right,
I was addicted, and I'm clean. Between that,
or even I was addicted, but now the reason I was addicted is because the way I was raised, the abuse that I encountered,
root causes,
all of those things that are going to come up and be worked out through the rest of my life until I'm 89 and I die. You know that all of that stuff is going to. You know, I think a lot of pastors get into this and they're like, "Well, you're telling me I got to work with these people forever?" You know, like, because we like that clean testimony. I was that.
We've had this conversation 32 times. Now I'm going to have it one more time. But that's what pastoring is. But that's what parenting is.
That's what church is.
That's what leadership is.
Yeah.
That's what church is. That's what discipleship is. I mean, Jesus and Peter had this 3.5 years and beyond, had this struggle with Peter's mouth.
Yeah.
He just kept saying the wrong things. Poor guy was just stupid. But Jesus kept reaching for him.
Amen for that.
He kept
Thank
using
God.
him.
Come back to the stupid people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just life is just not easy. And we have to be willing to walk with people through the hard places of life. And sometimes that's over and over again.
That's good. All right, well, on that, why don't you go ahead and just pray us out?
Hey,
We're
thank
right
you guys
on
for
time.
joining us. Father, we just thank you for our time together. We thank you for all of those that have joined us online. Our prayer, our desire is that people have been ministered to, that someone has been touched, that revelation has come, and that we are ready to push forward for the kingdom of God. We just pray, let it